is going to come in for Irving in the corner. Klay Thompson with a beautiful stroke and a three, and the Mavs by 2. Has taken more shots than San Antonio, and 3 more free throws. Klay Thompson 3.
This entire offseason, people were making fun of the Klay Thompson move. Well, maybe making fun of isn't the best way to say it, but Klay set the Mavs franchise record for threes in his debut. And the Mavericks as a team looked really good, especially the starting lineup with 4 of the 5 starters having a positive plus-minus. The game was of course against the Spurs, and while yes, the Spurs are still in rebuild mode, Victor Wembanyamas' presence alone make them a solid team that can beat anyone on any given night. I mean, he alone made life tough for every single player in the Dallas rotation. But the Mavs moved the ball well enough to create some open shots, and the Mavs were able to win by double digits on a night where the top players were super inefficient shooting the ball. So that can only make us all wonder what this team will be like on a good shooting night. It's very rare to see Luka and Kyrie combine for 27 missed shots. This game was all about Klay Thompson, and he most definitely performed. There had to have been a lot of pressure and a weird feeling opening up the season on a brand new court and brand new team, especially for a guy that has played on the same team for about as long as anyone in the entire league. That alone could have easily thrown off his game, but he had a better performance than almost all his games last year, so that only makes me wonder if getting a new environment really was what he needed to get back in the right headspace. But yeah, having a big three of Luka, Kyrie, and Klay is an absolute nightmare matchup-wise for opposing teams that have to figure out how to put enough defense on the court to guard them, because if you put too much defense out there, there will be no offense, and if you don't put enough defense out there, one of the 3 is going to have an absolute field day, because last season, just Kyrie and Luka alone was enough to reach the finals, and now you add Klay in there, and you can take a little bit of the load off each of them, and throughout the course of the season, that will keep everyone much more fresh. And Luka is just so good. Any added talent around him is just an immediate danger. Like right here, this is like the most basic inbounds play ever. You got Gafford setting the pick and just getting in everyone's way. And then Klay hits the turnaround 3 in the corner. The Mavs didn't really have many guys on the team that could do this last season. Even Luka wouldn't be able to do something like this with how slow his shot is. Then again right here, you see the power of having so much talent in the backcourt. Because Washington dribbles the ball up, Klay sets up in the corner, and the 2 guards up top have all their focus on Luka and Kyrie. So Klay gets the easy wide open 3, and if he can knock them down consistently all year, then this is going to be around a 60-win team. I mean, the Mavs should be able to pretty much expect 70 points out of the top 3 guys in the backcourt every single night. So whenever the bench shows up, even a little bit, the Mavs should win. And in game 1 against the Spurs, the Mavs showed a little bit of defensive grit as well. It was like they cracked the very complex code to shut down Victor Wembanyama. He never looked comfortable the entire game. Getting back to Klay Thompson, he admitted there were nerves before the game. At the height of the Warriors' success, he never imagined leaving. But things changed, he missed 2 full seasons with injuries, and when he returned, he was still a good player, but he was just no longer a great one. Contentious contract extension talks with Golden State sucked the joy out of the game. He needed to move on, and Dallas, ready with a 3-year, $50 million deal, was there to welcome him. And let's take a look at some of the numbers from the opener. By the time I release this video, there will probably already have been a few games played, so who knows what's going to happen in those. Even if they lose, that doesn't take away from what I saw in game 1. Kyrie had 15 points, Luka had 28, and Klay had 22. But one of the players that made the biggest impact not seen on the stat sheet was Maxi Kleber. He's definitely not a fan favorite, but in 15 minutes, he had a positive 18 plus minus, grabbing 4 rebounds with a block. And Derek Lively in 28 minutes off the bench was 6 for 8 from the field with 11 rebounds. To me, he is one of the X factors of the season. I love his game, and I think he has a very bright future as a center in the NBA. With Klay Thompson signing that 3-year, $50 million contract, that basically told us that the Mavs were all in on the starting lineup. But we all know that having a bench is still super important throughout the course of a season. And that is why I think Lively is honestly going to be one of the most important pieces of the team this year, because he really can make or break that bench unit. And I think the Mavs know that. But if he does continue this play, he could see himself playing with the starters. Anyways, moving on, here were some of the interesting takes I heard from around the NBA following the Mavs Game 1 win over the Spurs.
Dallas Mavericks, nothing against the Golden State Warriors, but the way they were using him, ball movement, body movement, creating off the dribble, that's not what he's going to be great at in his latter part of his career. Space the floor and have opportunities like this. You can never, I don't think Klay Thompson's ever been this open in a long time, because of the way they play. So this is great for Klay. And I was so happy to see him excited.
And he was moving out there. He played great defense too, so I'm just glad we got him.
To play with a guy like that?
I mean, it's easy to play with a guy like that, you know. It makes your life easier. You got to find them. That's what I say. That's what I'm saying. It makes my life and Kai's easier. Makes the whole team's life easier. It's a lot of space, so great.
Well, the feelings were a lot of nerves, anxiousness, but after a few minutes and you see one go through, you feel great. And great debut. It's only one game in October, but it feels good just to get the first one out the way. And setting a record is always a great feeling and something I'll never take for granted.
Now moving on, I started this video a few days ago, but never finished it. So now at the time of this recording, we are already past the Minnesota game, in which the Mavs won by a score of 120 to 114. Kyrie was the standout performer in this game with 35 points, along with 4 rebounds and 5 assists. And he did all of that while only committing 1 turnover. And then Luka had 24, 8, and 8, which honestly for him is a below average performance. But him and Kyrie really picked up for Klay's bad game with 7 points. And again, we can't really expect for Klay to consistently have crazy games. He's more of a 3rd or 4th option right now. Anyways, this one really did show off the championship culture that Dallas has built. To me, culture is an often overused term in sports. It's a buzzword for something that you can't see in a box score or give a tangible value to. Culture is hard to explain and even harder to build in a team environment. Coaches oftentimes ramble for minutes trying to explain it, which usually shows that their team doesn't have it. But the Mavs do have it, and they have the right kind of culture, a winning culture. And I feel like they will always have it for as long as the team is centered around Luka Doncic. It takes sacrifice from guys like Markieff Morris and Dwight Powell with limited on-court roles to provide stability for the locker room. But each year starts fresh. You don't just get to carry over what you once had, because we all know that 1 or 2 new guys can completely ruin or improve everything. All the work starts over, and it takes time and energy to get culture right. So that is why so many teams struggle to sustain it. So that brings us to this game against Minnesota. The Mavs were down by 8 with about 10 minutes remaining in the 3rd quarter, having just allowed the Wolves to start the second half on a 10-0 run. They could have just packed this game in, said it's not our night, and looked ahead to another day. Their superstar was banged up before the half. It was the second night of a back-to-back. Nobody would have faulted or got mad at them for waving the white flag. But instead, the remaining minutes of the game was a masterclass of the culture that has been built within this organization. Obviously, it's still a super long season, there will be ups and downs, but it's always good to see a team playing with this kind of fight early on. That's really all I got for this video. Thank you all so much if you made it to this point, and if you enjoyed it and haven't yet, please be sure to drop a like and subscribe, because your support truly does mean the world. And also, let me know what you would like to see next, and until then, I will see you all later.